Give me your perspective on DEI, and because based on what I heard earlier, I feel like you don't think I belong here.
Oh,
because
really?
Of
Why?
how I am a black man, and because of DEI, I'm not qualified enough
Are you?
to be here. Yes, I am.
Okay, great, then you belong.
But why do I have to prove that to you?
You don't. You brought it up, I didn't.
Okay, but can you explain to me your position on DEI?
Yes, people should not be in positions just because of the color of their skin. Hard stop.
Okay, but do you feel like I'm here because
I'm not feeling anything towards you, actually.
Okay,
I'm not prejudicing you, I'm not stereotyping you. I'm saying that it's a material.
I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are.
No, you are. You said, I don't feel comfortable being here. You started with.
I didn't say I wasn't comfortable being here. I said I feel like you made it to where I got here through DEI.
So let's examine that. What have I said that makes you feel that way?
When you mentioned how DEI is only just putting people of color and marginalized groups in spaces, even if they're not so
correct.
Qualified.
That's exactly what DEI does.
But that's not all that it does. You're categorizing it as something it isn't.
No, that is the charter mission.
That's not all.
Okay,
that it
so
does.
diversity, equity. So equity is outcome based.
Okay.
Is about making people who are of different skin colors have the same outcome, regardless whether or not they are qualified. The best example we have of this is the Students for Fair Admission Harvard Supreme Court case, where black students, they could have a SAT score 300 points lesser than the Asian equivalent and still get into Harvard. That is DEI in practice. I believe when you're hiring for an organization or for a company or for whatever you are doing, you should prioritize merit and character, and race should mean nothing. We should build around things that matter and not things that don't matter.
Okay, but you have to also take into the fact that black people have only been able to completely legally be able to make profit for themselves for around 60 years. And this is, no. Since segregation ended in 1965 and the Equal Rights Act in 1965, so what you're telling, there's not.
How does that, so let's talk about you. How did that impact you? How did something that happened 60 years ago impact your life?
It impacts me all the time.
How?
What do you, okay.
You're at Texas A&M, you're doing great.
Okay, yes, sure, yeah.
So aren't you a living example that all that's a bunch of nonsense and you could just act good and behave well and succeed?
But there's also living examples of the exact opposite. If you look in the impoverished neighborhoods in certain parts of Chicago or St. Louis, there's black communities being thrown aside because they're not getting education.
Thrown aside? Okay,
yes,
so
aside.
I think we can get somewhere. Why have the black community gotten poorer since the passage of the Civil Rights Act? Tell me that.
Because of the way the culture has been perpetuated through the years.
Hold on, think about it. So they were richer when we were segregated and more racist. America's become less racist.
What about Tulsa?
Yeah, no one's going to defend what happened in Tulsa again. But let's talk. We're talking about a lot of different cities. We're talking about Chicago, Tulsa. But let's again. This is a very important point. Do you think the fact that 70% of black youth don't have a dad around is probably pretty important?
That's because of the culture. What I mentioned
so
earlier.
Respectfully allow me to interject. How does the white culture impact the fact whether or not a black dad stays around when he impregnates a woman?
I'm not saying it's the white culture.
What is it?
The culture that has been perpetuated through the 200 years of slavery, the 100 years of segregation, and Jim Crow laws.
The marriage, so I got to interject again. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt too much. But in 1960, before the Civil Rights Act, 20% of black youth had a dad around. Now it's, 20% were single fathers, 80% had a dad around. It's been inverted. So we actually have seen black dads run away from their kids the last 60 years. Why is that?
Because of the raised incarceration rates, because of the perpetuated culture.
So how does one go to jail?
That's obvious. I'm not answering that question.
Yeah, so maybe it's because they committed crimes?
Okay, but when you're forced it's not just this is old, this is in the past, this doesn't affect you anymore.
Okay, so actually let's take a different group. How did the Holocaust impact Jews? They're doing pretty well.
Well, because they got reparations, we didn't.
How? What reparations did the Jews get?
Through acknowledgement, through money, through
we acknowledge slavery happened.
Okay, but you're sitting here and acting like it plays no role.
No, but to your argument, the Holocaust was 80 years ago. Half of all the Jews on the planet were killed. Everything they earned was taken. Jews are doing great. If all of a sudden something that happened 80 years ago impacts your material prosperity, how did Jews defy the curve? How did poor Asians do so well? Why is it that Asians are now the wealthiest minority in America, many of whom came with no money in the 1950s or 60s?
Because of the culture and opportunities that were provided to them.
But no, but you're not hearing me out. Black Americans have had the same opportunities. However,
but people still look at us like criminals every day.
Hold on, but like, I don't look at you like a criminal.
I'm not saying you do, I'm saying some people do.
But I mean, do you want me to be brutally honest with you, or do you want me to be politically correct?
Yes, be brutally honest with me.
Okay, do black people commit more crimes than white people? It's not even close.
Okay, but you have to take into account the culture that has been perpetuated.
Okay, got it. So we can agree on this. Do you mean internal black culture?
It's deeper than that. Like,
do you think, let's take time out. Do you think the average rap artist that a black kid in the hood is listening to is glorifying marriage and family and saving your money?
That's what sells because it's a culture thing. It's not just within the black community.
I agree. No, but hold on.
Everyone listens to it. It's not just isolated.
It's bad for everyone who listens to it. The point being is that black youth, as they are being raised, their role models are largely not glorifying staying with one woman, getting married, going to church. And if you're wrong, show me the black role models that are doing that. There might be a couple I could think of, maybe. But if it's about culture, you're right. The internal black culture has collapsed the last 60 years. We're no longer elevating the family. We're no longer elevating staying with the person that you're with. So our contention here as conservatives is that the systemic racism stuff is a bunch of rubbish. Instead, it's systemic bad choices.
Do you feel that systemic racism isn't real?
Of course not. What can I do that you can't do? Name it.
Okay.
No, seriously. What can I do that you can't do?
Fallacy. That's a slippery slope.
No, it's not.
I don't know why.
Very simple. No, because back in 1940, you would have been able to answer that question. Well, Charlie, there's a bathroom over there that I can't go to. There's a major league team.
I can't walk into the grocery store and get the same looks that you do. I walked into Brookshire Brothers a couple of weeks ago when I was looked at.
That's an insanely hyper-paranoid way of living life.
But
that's not evidence, right?
It's a real example.
By the way, if I walk into a black neighborhood, I get bad looks too, okay? So I don't know what the contention is.
Because of the way you treat our culture and the way you perpetuate
hold on. The way we treat your culture, we have gone to such great calisthenics and ridiculous gymnastics to prove that we're not racist. In fact, it's the worst thing that you could be called in America. We had, during George Floyd 2020, we had hundreds of millions of dollars given to Black Lives Matter. I don't know where that money went. Did it improve material worth of black America? So, I mean, and we actually do know where it went, actually. And so, but going back to your main contention, when you practice DEI, because that was your main point, right? You are rewarding bad culture. You even acknowledge it. You are saying that someone should be there based on the color of their skin. We say skin color doesn't matter. If you want that position, work harder, study harder, and then you might be able to get that position.
When we're forced into underfunded communities where schools are based off of property value, we can't.
Well, actually, school choice is now the law of the land here in Texas, so that's not correct. Secondly,
do you just expect a single-parent home to pick up and move into some rich neighborhood?
Well, again, so let's go back to why are they the single-parent home?
Because the hundreds of years.
Do you believe in the maxim or the belief that you should take responsibility for your decisions?
It's not just one person's decisions. It's so much deeper than that.
See,
why are you trying to?
That's where you and I have a different belief. You believe in this.
It's not. It's a fact.
No, it's a belief. Again, you have to tell me then, why do Jews do so well? Holocaust didn't impact their material worth. How did Asians do so well? And by the way, even more so, why are Hispanics getting so much wealthier? If we were so racist, why are Hispanics all of a sudden gaining income the last 20 years? There's something.
It's a difference in culture. I don't know why y'all are clapping. But it's a difference in culture. The way that each culture is treated is so vastly different in America.
But again, you have to tell me, other than bad looks at the grocery store, how else is your future, you as a man in America, not a black man, how is your future somehow restricted by racism?
My natural hair is seen as unprofessional when I go into an office or workplace. When I walk around in certain places, people just assume, like I've said earlier, the dirty looks. When people think you are automatically the worst of the worst solely because
we don't think that.
You've interrupted me like 10 times
because
now.
you think you know what white people think, and you don't.
I don't know what white people think.
Then why do you keep on saying you know what white people think?
Because I've seen it. I'm not
you've
saying
seen
I
our
think-
thoughts?
I've seen what people have done to me and people who look like me around the world and in America.
How? Again, you are, let's just make an example. You are here in the wealthiest country ever,
Yes.
at an amazing university, with all the opportunity imaginable in front of you. And all you want to do is look backwards at everything that prevented you, when you are a glaring example that there is no systemic racism and you can actually achieve your wildest dreams.
Whoa, I never said that. Hey, I'm not the only black person who exists out there. There's so many people who this culture is affecting to this day.
Do you know black Americans are the richest black people on earth? You cannot find a black majority country or any country where black people have significant representation where they are as wealthy, because even the poorest people in America are in the top 5%, the top 2% of wealth around the world. And so my whole belief is stop acting like you're a victim and start making better choices.
Not acting like a victim, whoa.
Respect.
This is not a victim mentality.
No, it fundamentally is, because white people are not out to get you. There's
I'm not saying they
there
are.
is nothing holding black people back. Let me say that again. There is nothing holding black people back. In fact, the opposite. You can get into colleges with lower test scores.
But
You could say things that white people can't say and not be fired for it. Black people are wildly disrepresentation.
people
Hold
say
on.
that to me all the time, and they just walk around like it doesn't mean anything around here.
Say what?
So,
Say the what?
the N-word. I'm not going to say it on this public platform, but people say it to me all the time.
Derogatorily.
Yes.
No, I think you're lying.
Why would I be lying
So
about
you're
this?
trying to tell me at this campus, did you report it to student services?
I'm not. I have too much on my plate to worry about this.
So you're going to say at this campus, you're going to indict the moral character of Texas A&M.
I'm not indicting the moral character.
Oh, yes,
of
you are.
Texas A&M.
You're saying that.
I'm
Hold on.
indicting the moral character of one person or a few people.
Oh, well, now it's one. So you heard it all the time, and now it's one. Got it. So
It's not okay. You're
no, but
taking me
this
out
is
of
the point,
context,
is that
but
I
okay.
don't believe you, because now you resort back to a race hoax to make it seem as if the
It's
white
not
kids
a-
on this campus are like
not
racist
saying
and terrible.
white kids.
Oh, so was it a black guy that said it to you?
I'm not.
It matters a lot, because this is how lies are able to grow. Jussie Smollett, we see this. You
So
have
do
to
you think
challenge
I'm
them head
lying?
on.
Do you think I'm lying when I say that people say the N-word around here and just
If I
act
think a
casual
white
about it?
person comes up to you derogatorily and says, "Shut up, N-word," I
I'm
absolutely.
not saying they said
But
it
I
like-
asked. I said, "Are they saying it derogatorily?"
But that doesn't mean it's word for word like that.
But okay, so then it's not an insult then. So then don't bring it up as if it's evidence of racism.
Because you brought the N-word up first. I didn't.
No, I didn't.
You no. You specifically said, name me an instance of the
No,
N-word.
I said black people can say things that white people can't say. Of course that's true.
But that's automatically implying that one
it's
word.
It's more than that. But let me just kind of build
Okay,
this
then
out
what
further.
is it then?
There's a lot of things black people can say.
Explain it to me.
You want me to give you more examples of things?
Yes.
Black people are allowed to talk about black culture in a way that white culture cannot. For example, black people can go up and say that there's a baby mama problem in black America, and white people are not allowed to say that. Oh, I just did. So what are you gonna do? Cancel me? Black people are allowed to say. Black people are allowed to say.
I'm a grown man. I got way too much
Black
to
people
worry
are allowed
about.
to say that there is a systemic fraud issue within the PP loan application in black America. Black people are much easier to be able to say that black individuals, despite being 13% of the American population, commit 55% of the murders. If most white people say that at a job, they would get fired for being a racist. I don't care, because I say whatever I want. So black individuals have much more intellectual public freedom than white people do. If a white person were to come up and say, you know, black America really needs to get its act together and stop sleeping around all the time, and it needs to actually have monopoly.
Why would you just
Because
walk
it's
up and,
true.
Because why
it's
would you
true.
just walk up to someone and talk and attack their culture from the outside?
Well, hold
you
on.
can't
Because
talk about someone.
hold on. Let's look at the evidence. You said to myself, you said there's all these people suffering in Chicago. There's all these people that are terrible. I'm telling you why. It's because there's been bad decisions that have been institutionalized. Let me finish. And rap artists and athletes and people at the top level of black society that refuse to ever challenge the core rot in black America, which is that they are allowing degeneracy and hedonism to eat the soul of what once was a beautiful black culture, and instead they go around saying it's the boogeyman of racism, the white man is out to get you, and the result is black America is doing worse than it was in the 1960s. That is the contention, period.
It's not just, it's a culture. It's so much deeper than the present day we are in. I don't know why you're pretending like it just doesn't matter.
What doesn't matter? You mean things that happen? Again, I've been through this multiple times. Let me just ask you
But
one.
you're not listening to understand.
No,
you're listening to reply.
No, I'm doing both actually, and so. Okay. But let me just like ask one final question, right? Which is that like you have your entire future ahead of you. When you are hired for a job, would you rather be hired because of your race or because of how qualified you are?
It doesn't boil down to just that.
That's what DEI is, man.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's
it is
not.
definitionally the hiring of people.
They're not just going to immediately see. They're going to.
You get extra points if you're black with DEI. That's how it works. Racial quotas elevate people based on the color of their skin.
So do you think I got extra points to come here?
I don't know. You said you were qualified, but affirmative action was institutionalized in Harvard and in Texas and a lot of other places. There is nothing that is preventing black people from prospering. Nothing. The only thing is that you guys have been hypnotized to be victims of your own mind, to think as if there's a white person out to get you. I walk in the grocery store, they look at me differently. All that stuff is complete rubbish. The thing that is preventing you.
Life experiences. You're just denying my experience. I just shared to you in front of all these people.
If you think that, okay, let me just be very clear.
I know.
America has come really far if your best example of racism is getting bad looks in a grocery store. We have made incredible racial moral progress. That's only my
experience. There are so many other people
out there. But I'm happy to hear every example that they have. It boils down to this. We are not just a racist country, we are the least racist country ever to exist. We go out of our way not to be called the R word, to demonstrate that we aren't racist, to show to people that I have compassion for others and that I want to try to help people of different skin color. But at its fundamental core, I have to go back to this. I don't actually think skin color matters that much. I don't. I want a country that aims towards MLK's dream of one based on content of character and one on competency. I think the hyper-race obsession of this country is really bad. It's really bad for everybody involved, including black America. And I would just ask you, what would you do to improve the material well-being of black America? What is your solution?
Education.
Okay, we've spent trillions of dollars on education.
It's not
trillions.
You need to fundamentally change the system of education because there's not enough funding. Teachers are not paid enough anywhere. Let's be honest. We need to seriously fix our education, especially when public school education comes from property taxes. When you're in a low-income neighborhood, you're not going to get high-income teachers.
If you had to choose more money for education or more dads for black kids, what would you say?
That goes hand in hand. Education goes into
I agree.
Family planning.
That's why if we get more dads into homes, it starts solving the problem.
No, education is what solves the problem.
Well, hold on, but again, if you're just educating and there's not a dad at home reinforcing it, we've seen this play out. We see this in Chicago. In Baltimore, we've spent hundreds of billions of dollars in Baltimore, Chicago, Detroit. We have entire classes of kids that can't read at grade level. We have incredible examples of this, and it goes back to this. If you want to have a privileged life in America, very simple, start acting a certain way. Our belief system is that you come down to the most foundational family unit, and when that breaks down so severely, don't be shocked if that group, when it acts that way, stays in poverty over a longer period of time. Asians are incredibly loyally married. It's one of the reasons why Asian Americans do so well in this country. Hispanics do very well. White Americans increasingly are not doing as well.
They also came here by choice, too. My ancestors did not come here by choice, but
so
we don't have to go
again,
too far into that.
We don't have to go into that. I want to get to the next question. Again, you should be kissing the ground because you're right. You didn't come here by choice. But
why are you telling me to?
Hold on, I'm telling you right now. You should be kissing the ground with gratitude because you're right. You are not in Africa, and you should be thankful you're not in Africa, that you're in the United States of America. That's my end of contention. Thank you very much.
I think that the anti-immigration rhetoric you have is not new. I think that you try to paint a picture of it being this current phenomenon that we're facing, but there's been rhetoric from your side for a long time, throughout the entirety of history. I mean, if we look at the immigration policies in the US, even though Chinese immigrants built the entire Western Railroad, there was still the Chinese Exclusion Act because they were providing insane value to the United States, but we still had these exclusion acts because of xenophobic attitudes. And so this is not a novel idea that immigrants are bad for the country. So I'm interested in why you think that all of a sudden we need to change the way the United States works.
Well, first of all, immigration has gone in great influxes. We basically turned off all immigration in the 1940s and 50s. We had net zero immigration for almost 15 years. Most people don't even know that. So we had Ellis Island in the early 1900s, and then we turned on the guzzle of immigration. But let's be honest, for 40 years we have tried this mass immigration project for the last 40 years. Has it worked? Are we a more connected country? Have middle-class wages kept up? Look at the material data. Has immigration enriched the well-being of the United States of America, especially the last 5 or 6 years? I would say, of course not, actually. We're more divided, we're more factious, and we see this in almost every European country as well. When you import a bunch of people that don't speak your language, that are from the third world, all of a sudden you have mass destabilization happening in your country. It's not a matter of being xenophobic. Instead, it's a matter of being patriotic to your own country and your own citizens. It's not about hating the foreigner, it's about loving the citizen. And your obligation is always to citizens first, not foreigners.
Okay. So you don't think that the MAGA movement has led to xenophobic attitudes at all?
I don't even know how to answer that. I mean, like...
Why not?
Well, because you have to first define what you mean by xenophobic attitudes.
I mean, just like you said, I mean, we're living in a divided world. You don't think that comes from people being anti-immigration?
No, I think it's the opposite. I think when you allow a bunch of people that aren't native-born Americans too quickly, with no checks, no background, no idea who they are, and flood them into your towns, definitionally, diversity is not a strength when it comes to local community ties.
If you don't use it, I don't know that you're committed to finding its strength.
Hold on, no, explain this to me. This is a good question.
Yeah.
What country has ever grown stronger the more divided it's been?
None, but I'm not saying
Yeah,
that
that's
we
the point.
have to get more divided.
No,
but
diversity definitionally will divide you. Unity unifies you. You notice they never say unity is our strength, they say diversity is our strength? In fact, just so we are clear, there is nothing racist or xenophobic to say that you want your kids to be around people that speak English. There's nothing racist to say that. It actually means that you want to be able to communicate with your neighbor. There's nothing racist and xenophobic to say, for example, we don't want to import people from a far-off distant land that don't share Western values, that don't treat women the same, that don't have the same respect for freedom of speech. So what we see is the unraveling of the United States of America, because a country is again, just like undoubtedly, it is the people that inhabit it. So you have to be very careful what people you allow into your country.
Sure, but I think that what you're talking about, this like mass shift in American culture, is like not happening. I think you're fear-mongering. And also, I think that the United States forever has been a mix of culture. I don't really know like where you can point to a time in the US history that hasn't included immigrants in its culture.
Again, from the 1920s and 1960s, we had very little immigration in this country, nearly 40 years. In fact, that is what largely led to us becoming a world superpower in the 1950s. We
had the Bracero program back then, where we brought in tons of laborers from Mexico to the United States to work in agricultural, and that's how we fed the United States. So I really
again,
don't think that you can say that.
It was very limited in scope versus what we see today. But again, I will ask a more moral question. Does a politician have first loyalty to its own citizens or to another country's citizens?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought this, because I wanted to circle back to my original question about the United States creating instability in the rest of the world. I do think that every single politician, like let's say I'm the Prime Minister of South Africa, you know,
Which is an incredibly anti-white country. Like, oh my goodness.
Okay, anyway.
Dangerously anti-white.
Okay, anyway.
Do you know about that, by the way? You should.
Apartheid, yes.
Oh, no. It's like they're killing white people in the streets in South Africa. They're stealing farmland. I mean, if you don't know about that, that shows how the media is lying to all of you. It is literally a mini white genocide happening in South Africa right now.
But I don't think that we should...
No, it's fine. You brought up South Africa, not me, but yes.
That was just an example. Anyway, let's stay on topic. So let's say I'm the Prime Minister of a country. I do agree with you that my first job is that country, for sure. That's who I'm leading. But considering the United States has created mass violence, instability, and poverty around the world, you don't think that we have some sort of obligation to the people who then have to flee from that?
No.
Why not?
Wait, hold on. Well, why not? Define your terms. Where have we created mass stability? I'll grant you Iraq. That was a disaster. Where else?
In all of Latin America, in different countries in Africa, places that, like the Philippines that we colonized, Puerto Rico. Yeah,
I mean, of course, I'm always so interested in this, as if it's like, you can never blame those countries for not having their act together. It's somehow America's fault. Like, oh, it's America's fault that Nicaragua can't get its act together. It's America's fault. even though we welcome Puerto Rico to become U.S. citizens, like we've colonized them. So here's the paradox.
You don't think that Puerto Rico was colonized?
No. I'm saying no. So if we don't help Puerto Rico, we're evil. When they become a territory, we colonize them, and we haven't done enough. It's like, which one is it exactly?
So the Puerto Rico was taken from the Spanish as a colony and used as a sugar farm for years, where the workers were paid less than $1 per day to create sugar for the United States. And it's not really about statehood or independence. It's about letting Puerto Rico decide that for themselves. And anyway, this isn't about Puerto Rico.
No, it's
this
fine,
is about
but and more broadly, and I'll get to the couple final questions here. I can sense that your problem is that like America's super successful and these other countries aren't. And foundationally, it's rooted in envy, bitterness, and resentment because we are the world's superpower. It's not because we've held anybody back. It's because we've had incredible people, really good ideas.
You don't think the U.S. has intervened in a negative way in other countries?
At times, yes. At times, we've intervened very favorably. Can you at least acknowledge at times that...
Sure, there has been aid, but there's also been terrible
No,
coups.
not just aid. South Korea exists because of American involvement. Kuwait exists because of American involvement.
But it's not.
So...
But to look at American accountability, you have to look at the whole of that accountability. And to say that certain countries are less developed purely on their own fault is to ignore history.
So that's where we disagree.
Okay.
Countries have to take responsibility for their own future, which again, this is one of the reasons why so many people hate Israel. Every other country around there is like a third world country, and Israel is super successful and super agenic, and they're able to be like one of the wealthiest countries on the planet. You gotta wonder, what is it that they're doing? Oh, it's the Jews because they're stealing all this money. No, actually they like work super hard, and they don't believe in Islam, and they and like, wow. And the one place
Have you ever been to those countries?
Yeah, actually, I have been to Israel, and I've been to the Palestinian Authority. I've been to the West Bank. I've actually visited it. Even if I hadn't, that doesn't mean what I'm saying is wrong, just for the record. By the way, I encourage you to try to go to Lebanon or Syria. Not exactly the Four Seasons, right? So,
and you
not
don't
great.
think that U.S. intervention has anything to do with that?
Partially, but again, to blame the evil U.S. intervention for every single problem is, at its core, intellectually sloppy.
I don't think so, because the United States has 2 times the military of the rest of the world, and it has been in our DNA to intervene in a military way in other countries. So to say, I mean, I know you believe in...
So I want to try to square this all together. I got to get to another question, just to make sure I'm clear. So you're mad at America for getting involved in other people's countries, right? So America's bad for that. But then you want everyone to come to America. I thought America's bad.
I'm saying that the United States needs to be held accountable. You can't meddle in
So we're
other
held accountable by
countries.
inviting the entire world here?
If you are going to mess up that country, you have to do something about it.
Oh, do something. Invite them here.
Maybe if you're the reason that they have to leave. No?
All right. Then that at its core, I'm glad you articulated it, is neoconservatism, which is invade the world, invite the world. Which is that you don't support the invasion part of it, but somehow we have to invite the world as some sort of like mass penance.
But that's like you invade and then say, oh,
Well, no, I don't
now-
support the invasions. I think you are overly ascribing fault to the United States of America, when in reality
think so.
it's these own broken countries that cannot get their own act together. A great example is this, and I'll close with this. El Salvador is actually safer than America. It has billions of dollars flowing into El Salvador. Why? Because they elected Bukele, who decided to go after MS-13 and clean up the streets of El Salvador. Which, again, it was because they decided to do good things with massive action. Countries can be wealthy. Singapore is wealthy. You could be a very wealthy country if you embrace Western market ideas, private property with low crime, and it's not always...
I mean, in the case of El Salvador, the United States was the reason that the country broke down into gang warfare, and now if you look at the way they were able to turn around, they had to declare a state of emergency just to be able to turn things around.
It's just like, this is where we're different, and then I'll close, then we have to get going. I look at America as a force for good. You look at everything wrong and you say it must be America.
No, sir, I'm looking at bad things that they have done and calling for accountability.
Okay, like
I mean, maybe we disagree, I don't know.
I guess I think we're a wonderful country, and I think if a country is poor, they're poor by choice, and they have to be able to get their act together, make better decisions, and stop acting like victims all the time. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Hey, Charlie, how's it going? So I wanted to speak to you about sex and gender. I think we have a disagreement there. I feel like we can agree on sex. There are male, female. You're either born male, female, or in some cases, some instances, there's a case of intersex persons. But I think our disagreement lays with your interpretation or your take on gender and how it's directly linked to sex. And I just kind of want to see where, what's your thoughts on gender, or what's your take? Because I'm not quite sure. I'm not really caught up on what you've.
Sure. So gender's a made-up concept. Do you know who made it up?
Who made it up?
A guy by the name of John Money in the 1960s. And why did he make it up?
No, I was going to say, wouldn't technically anything be a made-up concept?
No, sex is not made up. You can look at sex. XX and XY chromosomes are not made up. Are not made up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we're on the same page about
So
that.
sex is observing. Gender is creating something new. Totally different. We observe nature. Gender is creating a new thing out of thin air that has no applicability to our discourse or dialogue. So there are 0 genders, 2 sexes, infinite personalities. We recognize that people have different personalities. We don't think you should get a different definition on the forms you fill out or how people talk to you, recognize you, or how you are treated.
So when it comes to defining or looking at and seeing what or who is a man or a woman, it only refers to sex. Like if they have a sort of, is that
Correct.
correct?
Yeah. And it's worked really well for all of humanity. We decided to screw it up the last 20 years.
But what about with like societal implications with the way gender, with the way gender is expressed? You could, for example, you could have you could be a trans. Let me take this for example. If I was transgender, say I was born female, but with the way I present myself, if I shaved my mustache. I shave my mustache, I dress like a male. When I'm walking down the street, you would think what would you think I am?
What I think is irrelevant. You can disguise yourself to look something you are not. I can wear blackface. Do I become black?
No, of course
Oh,
not.
so wait, hold on. Then a man dresses like a woman, why does he become a woman?
It's not that he becomes a woman, it's he's seen and he's
But
seen
then
as
why should he be
a woman.
recognized as something that he's not?
It's not that it's not that they need to be recognized.
Oh, no, that's what it's all about. It's about recognizing a delusion. You can dress however you wish. You can act however you wish, but I'm not going to recognize your lie. In fact, you could get in trouble for mispronouncing in the state of California. We're teaching our kids you must pronoun correctly, and you actually have to certify the delusion. So again, I say if I wear blackface and I don't become black, why does a man who wears a dress become a woman?
It's not. I feel like it's not up for someone. I feel like it's not up for you to decide. I think it's up for the individual, and I think the way they express themselves through either the way they express themselves through their through their apparel, through their attire. I think that's more indicative of
Okay,
how
then
society,
let's play this out. If everyone can just choose however they want, should biological men who are born as a man be able to compete in female sports? I'm asking.
No, I don't believe that biological men should be in women's sports.
And God bless you for saying that, because that's at. So here's another question: should biological men who identify as women be able to go into women's locker rooms?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Biological man, so he has a.
Okay.
And he says he's a woman. Should he be allowed to go into female locker rooms?
I mean, no. We have on campus. We have all gender restrooms on campus where males and females are.
I think that's a terrible idea, right? So, because male-female distinctions are critically important. It's how society is structured.
Yeah, but we have these shared spaces, and there hasn't been any sort of issues, or I think the major consensus surrounding it is that people actually enjoy the all gender bathrooms.
Let's talk about locker rooms, though. Do you think women would enjoy undressing next to a fully unclothed man?
No, I don't think so. I don't.
Okay, so then we should prohibit that. So we agree. So, and then finally, do you think that a young 15-year-old here in California, a young boy who thinks he is a girl, should he be allowed to chop his off?
Can you say that again from the start? Real quick.
15-year-old boy in California. He thinks he's transgender.
Okay.
Should he be allowed to go chop his parts off?
Should he be allowed? I think that's a conversation for him and his medical and his doctor and his family. I mean, It's not my job to.
Should 15-year-olds be allowed to get tattoos?
Should 15-year-olds be allowed to get tattoos? No.
So you could, but you can't get a tattoo.
I mean, I mean, I think that's. I don't think that's really that comparative.
Well, they're both irreversible, right? Actually, one matters a lot more for human flourishing than the other.
No, I would definitely agree. It's a very, what's it called? It's a very life-altering process, and I think it requires a lot of time, and it requires a lot of time, and it shouldn't be something that should be just jumped into. I just think that's something for an individual and their family and their doctors to decide, and not for society or the state.
Last question, most important question: what is a woman?
A woman, you know it when you see it. You know, it's like if I look, she looks like a woman. 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 It's the way you express yourself. So. Like, all these, it's the way you express yourself.
So if you basically womanhood is a costume.
I'm not saying that now.
No, it is. Yeah, if you're able to wear the right stuff and just assume the identity, you can appropriate womanhood. Is that correct?
No.
Okay, is Caitlyn Jenner a woman?
Yes.
Why?
Why is she a woman?
What chromosomes does Caitlyn Jenner have?
I mean, I think her chromosomes don't have to deal with her gender. Like, I think that's where the disagreement lies. Is that
Yeah. Again, so this is where you are playing into this narrative that gender exists. We reject that paradigm completely, because gender has led us to this place that your own personal self-expression matters to your core identity. And again, that means nothing. Infinite personalities, no genders, two sexes. And we must live in reality, not in the delusions of the heads of people that want us to accommodate their fantasy. Thank you very much for your time.
It's all right if you have an opinion. I'm saying it's not all right if you don't understand how the female reproductive system works.
Let's pop quiz. When does heartbeats begin for babies in utero?
Have you ever eaten an egg before? Yes or no? Have you ever eaten an egg before?
Scrambled, yeah.
Okay, so would that be you scrambled a full chicken?
Well, hold on. You understand that it takes an egg to be fertilized?
Right, uh-huh.
Yeah,
but
uh-huh.
Your point,
so,
the whole
so,
point you're making
well,
is
hold
that
on. So,
a
but no,
baby...
since we're doing pop quiz on like human development, so when exactly do heart waves begin in utero?
You know that, but you don't know the four
Hold on, no,
cycles.
so tell me when heartbeat.
I don't know.
Okay, you don't know.
No.
So wait, hold on. So you're trying to say I know more about the woman reproductive system than you do?
I am a woman, so yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, but the point being is we could both go back and forth of like independent trivial facts when it comes to the woman's reproductive system. But here's something we all know, because God wrote this on the human heart of every individual, as it says in the book of Romans. We know deep down it's wrong to murder a baby.
You're not murdering a baby. It's not a baby.
Okay, well, let's play this out. What is it then?
It is an embryo, which is not a baby.
Well, okay, so it's a fertilized embryo.
Correct, which is not a baby.
So at what point does it become a baby?
When it is born.
Oh.
I don't agree with abortions up to full-term abortions.
Well, hold on, but you said it becomes a baby when it's born.
Yes.
Then why would you have abortion limits before it's born? I thought it's just an embryo. So embryo rights?
No, the embryo rights aren't a
But
thing.
then
because it's not
where
a
would you
person.
draw a line for abortion then, and why, and under what moral standard?
There are medical reasons not
No,
to have an
no,
abortion
no,
for
that's
full
not the
term.
question. That's not
Yes,
the
it is.
question.
You just asked me why would I not have an abortion full term for medical reasons.
Okay, so at 29 weeks, the baby is nearly fully developed, can recognize the mother's voice, has a heartbeat, has brain waves. Is it okay to abort that baby?
I don't, it's not okay, but you're going to say it's okay to have an abortion then. I don't understand what you're trying to say. It's not okay to have an abortion ever? How
Correct.
about 3
Yes.
weeks in?
Correct. No
Right.
abortion. Correct.
Why?
Well, because your life started at conception.
It did not, though. It did not.
Well, hold on. So let's play this out. So who are you as an individual? From your skin color to your eye color to your likes, your dislikes, from your temperament to your everything.
I am not an embryo. I'm a person.
Hold on a second. But it started with something called deoxyribonucleic acid. And your own individual DNA started at the point of egg and sperm meeting. That's where your journey started. And so from that point in particular, life begins. Not at birth, not at first words, not at first steps,
But when your DNA, which is who you actually are, you are your DNA. Every one of your DNA cells is coded XX or XY. It's coded with all of your unique characteristics and attributes that we believe God individually curated for the rest of your life. That doesn't happen at 8 weeks or 10 weeks. It happens at conception.
What happens if you need a medical abortion? If the mother will die if she does not get an abortion?
So
what's your stance on
the
that?
The only place where medical abortion is necessary is before 20 weeks, which is incredibly rare.
What if she will die? What if the mother
Hold
will
on a second.
die?
So let's take, for example, this is a very important question. Let's say it's 27 weeks, okay? And the mother will die. Why shouldn't, you could agree, why don't we just have the baby delivered by cesarean section? You know what a cesarean section is, right?
Yes.
What is a cesarean
A
section?
C-section?
Yeah, why wouldn't we just put the baby out by C-section instead of terminating it?
Because if the mother will die,
No,
it's not safe to do that.
You remove the baby.
I understand.
Threat removed.
I know what a C-section
But
is.
it's actually safer than an abortion. So every time they say, this is for you guys, they say, oh, you need to have abortion for medical reasons, respond, then have a C-section.
What if you're not able to have a C-section? What if you are on your deathbed, you need to have an abortion right now?
Well, again, but...
And it's illegal. You
guess what?
can't, so you have to die.
First and foremost, C-section is safer, C-section is quicker, and a C-section saves both lives. A C-section
The
takes...
baby is already dead, you just said.
No, but even... No. Hold on a second. You're saying if the baby's already dead, then it isn't even an abortion, right? Then you're talking about a removal of a carcass, which is a completely different medical operation.
So you're saying that's okay if you're
Well,
having...
If you're hold on. If you're removing a carcass of a baby, that is not an abortion, by definition.
It's the same process.
No, it's completely different. During an abortion, they actually inject the spinal fluid with cyanide poisoning as the baby squirms and tries to find its mother, and it is gasping for air of life. Have you ever watched an abortion? It is
Have
one
you?
of the... Yeah, actually I have. And I encourage every human being to watch one to know what you are fighting against. Because when you see abortion, you will have your life will be changed. That we allow the massacre of 1.5 million babies a year under the guise of woman reproductive health. We are allowing babies every single year to just say, you know, we're going to discard them. Why? Oh, they're smaller. They're not humans. You're using dehumanizing language saying, oh, it's an embryo. No, that's a baby made in the image of God, deserving of protection.
What do you do with those children once they're born into a bad household?
So now we've transitioned to, like, what do you do with the kids?
Right.
Glad we're past the other part of the argument, okay? What do you do with them? You know there's twice as many people on the adoption waiting list than there are abortions every single year?
And they're still on the list. So you want to send a child into an orphanage?
Well,
is that what you want for a child? Is that a good life for a child?
No, I'm not advocating that. In fact, I'm advocating to make it easier to be able to adopt, number one. Number two, there's no such thing as an unwanted child. Number three, it is never right to justify the mass elimination or termination of people under the guise of saying they're unwanted. That's how we get Auschwitz. That's how we get the greatest horrors of the 20th century. Those people are unwanted.
So you're comparing abortion to the Holocaust?
Absolutely, I am. In fact, it's worse. It's worse.
It's really not. I don't
It's
think it is.
45 million babies. It's nearly 8 times worse than the Holocaust. What's the moral difference between a small baby in the womb and a grown Jew who was killed at Auschwitz? What's the moral difference? One is older.
Is a person.
What species is the baby in the womb?
It's a human, but
Therefore,
it's an
they should have
embryo.
human rights.
No,
They should have human rights.
I do not agree.
Oh, so small humans, no human rights. Grown humans, human
It's
rights.
not a small human. It's an embryo.
You just said it was a human species.
It's not a living human child.
Wait, it's not a what?
It's not a child.
But
it's not a living child.
It has a heartbeat. It has
that
brain
does
waves.
not make it a child.
But tell me when it becomes a child then.
I already told you when it is born.
Again, so under every other objective definition, you see guys how quickly the pro-abortion arguments fall apart with just the slightest questioning? But our position is one rooted not in feelings, not in personal autonomy, but one in biological consistency and reality. That your life had an agreed upon starting point, that starting point should be protected and preserved. And the excuses given for abortion is dehumanization. Oh, it's just an embryo. Guys, that's just using different language to justify the massacre of something smaller than you. That's all that it is.
I have a couple points that I want to talk about in illegal immigration. Is it okay if I say all of them with no interruption? Okay, cool. So First, illegal immigrants power our economy. They're 50% of U.S. farm workers, harvesting the food on our tables, and fill 70% of construction jobs in states like Texas. They pay $13 billion annually in taxes, including $2 billion to Social Security that they can't claim. Deporting them would slash agricultural output by $60 billion and raise food prices by 6%. Why gut our farms and wallets when these workers fuel our prosperity? That's my first point. Second point. They strengthen our communities with lower crime rates. So in Texas, undocumented immigrants have a 26 lower percent homicide conviction rates. So, which is 2.2 per 100,000 versus 3 for native-born citizens. Nationally, immigrants are incarcerated at half the rate of native-born, where it's 0.85% versus 1.71%. That's according to Bureau of Justice Statistics from 2019. So if safety is your goal, why deport people who make our streets safer? This is my third point. Mass deportation tears apart American families. Over 4.4 million U.S. citizens, children have an undocumented parent. And in Texas, 1 in 7 kids lives in a mixed status household. Okay, this is my fourth point. Deportation is a fiscal nightmare. Removing 11 million people would cost $315 to $400 billion. More than the entire Homeland Security budget, and shrink our GDP by 1.7 trillion over 10 years. And this is my last point. Our immigration system is broken, pushing people to cross illegally. Visa waits Mexicans can exceed 20 years, and the asylum blockage is 1.3 million cases, with hearings 4 to 6 years out. Okay.
You done?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
All right, so without looking at the phone, look at me. What
Sure.
should the penalty be for breaking into America?
I think there should be a system where it's more merit-based. So if this
No,
person
penalty. So what is the penalty? So what should happen to you?
It's not a felony. It's a misdemeanor.
No, it is. That's not true. It's 8 U.S.C.
it's a
1312. You can
misdemeanor.
look it up right now.
It's a felony if it's done twice. If
No,
you
no,
try to
it's
cross
not
the border,
correct.
that is correct.
That is not correct.
I googled it, dude.
To illegally go across the southern border with the well intent to come into harbor yourself into the interior of the United States, the violation of 8 U.S.C. 1312,
Okay.
which is a felony in the federal criminal code. Now, it can be enforced as a misdemeanor, or it can be upwards to 5 years in prison. Now, I want to know, since it's a felony, law in the
Sure.
books, 8 U.S.C. 1312,
Yeah.
what should the penalty be?
Well, in my opinion, these kinds of laws are usually they're what do you call it? They're sorry. Usually the sorry. Wait, sorry. Can I check my phone real quick? I apologize. Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
What should the penalty be
Okay.
for someone that breaks or comes into America illegally? What should the penalty be?
I think there should be a merit system where the people. Okay, the
Not
penalty.
answer.
All right, let's.
That's
the penalty.
not the
So-
answer. It's a very simple moral
Okay.
and legal question.
Okay,
What
sure.
should the penalty be if you come into America illegally?
Okay, so since it's a misdemeanor, not a felony, misdemeanors
I
are.
just
that's
told
not
you it's
true,
not 8.
dude.
You can look up on
That's
your
not
chat
true.
GPT what is
Yeah,
8
yeah.
USC. Look up what is 8 USC 1312.
No, I know. I've already looked it up.
Yes, which
It
is
takes, when it's your second time crossing the border illegally, then it becomes a felony.
it can be, and it is enforced as a felony, and it usually is done as a misdemeanor citation because no one has the stones to do 20 million felony applications.
Okay.
So I just want to ask,
Yeah.
what should the penalty be then for someone that comes into this country illegally?
Usually there's 3 ways that go about this when there's a penalty. There's either like a fine, or there's some kind of public service that this person does, or you send them back. But
Send them back. I agree. That's what we should do.
Okay. So this is interesting. So one of the statistics that I read said that illegal immigrants don't cause as much they don't break the law as often as people who are native born.
Well, hold on, time out.
That is a statistic.
But
time out.
But
dude.
every single one
No,
of them are
not time
criminals.
out.
They're all criminals.
Okay, sure. By law.
Well, hold
by
on.
law.
No,
Okay. No, by law. Of course. Of course they are.
Wait, so
I
if
agree that they're-
they commit less crime and they're all criminals,
Wait a
Okay,
second.
so
By
you're basing it-
definition,
yeah.
they all have broken the law by being here, and they break
Okay.
the law every day by staying here, because you're
Okay.
actually not allowed to stay here either. Do you know that?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
every
yeah.
day you're here, you're actually continually breaking the law. You can't break in or harbor. That's what the federal law says.
Okay.
So by breaking in, it's not just the only law they broke. Every second you remain here, you're also
Yeah.
breaking the law. So that statistic is invalidated by just them breathing here. They're breaking the law.
No, of course not. Of course not. So, of course, it makes sense for them when they're here. They're breaking the law because they're illegal immigrants, obviously. But once they're okay, yeah, of course. So once they're here, once they are here, what kind of harm are they actually doing? When you look at the numbers, statistically,
lot.
No, that's not true. Okay,
Black
so look,
wages have
in
gone
Texas,
down.
Okay, in Texas,
DUIs have gone up dramatically.
Try not to interrupt, bro.
Well,
okay,
hold
so
on. I'm interjecting, and I let you go uninterrupted with your whole soliloquy,
true,
right?
yeah, thank
so,
you.
So let me ask you a question now.
Okay.
So, if it is correct
yeah,
that illegal aliens commit less crimes, which of course it's not correct.
that is correct. Look
No,
it up. In
but
Texas, they made a study in 2019. 26% are
is
lower.
any crime? It's just not correct. But I'm
That
not
is
going to debate that.
correct.
It's I just proved it at its face because they commit a crime by being here every day. That is a crime.
Okay, once they are here, what kind of crimes are they committing? Which is
Okay, well,
they're
okay.
26%.
Do you know the name
less.
Laken Riley?
No, educate me.
Oh, you don't.
No.
Do you know? Wow. Do you know the name Rachel Morin?
No, I don't.
Wow.
Wait, educate
Okay.
me. What
So
kind of...
Laken Riley was a girl at the University of Georgia.
Okay.
There was a peeping Tommy, a legal alien, that was deported 5 times prior, and Biden kept on letting him back in. He hunted her down, raped her, sodomized her, and murdered her on a hiking trail, University of Georgia.
Okay, so
Rachel,
one person doesn't represent all
hold on a
illegal
second.
immigrants.
Every person who is killed by an illegal alien is one that should not happen. Every single one.
Of course, and also the ones that are native born.
Everyone.
As
And so
well as
that's
the
the
ones who are
point.
native born.
Is that it's not a
As
matter
well
of
as
the
the people who are
rate.
native born.
The rate, even if I accept your premise, which is incorrect, the rate is irrelevant. The number is what's relevant. There should be 0 illegal aliens. There should be 0 Americans being
Okay.
killed by illegals.
So, okay.
Not to mention there's 6 other problems with the illegal aliens. They steal Social Security numbers. They depress wages. They are heavily involved. By the way, not to mention, a lot of people that cross on the southern border are also smuggling girls, weapons, and drugs alongside the southern border when they come. It's the largest slavery operation in American history that many illegal aliens help make possible on the southern border. And I guess the final question I'll have is, should a government serve its citizens first and foremost?
Yeah, of course. Well, okay, there's been many people who are like very political leaders who have said that this place is built off of immigrants.
Oh, is it? Wait, hold on. Let's think about that.
Sure.
First of all, it's legal, not illegal. But was America founded by immigrants or settlers?
Settlers.
That's not an immigrant.
Yeah. Okay.
An
Well, that's not
immigrant
my
is-
point. My point is
You
that
just
people
brought
who-
up the nation built by immigrants.
Yeah,
We're
because
actually
people,
not.
because the political leaders have said that this place is built.
Yeah, and they're
from
wrong.
They're wrong. Political
yes.
leaders are wrong. George
Yes.
W. Bush is wrong. All these political leaders
Yes.
who have built
yes.
America.
By the way, the
wrong.
first person to say that was.
How is that wrong? When illegal
'cause
immigrants make,
I just
they grow the economy.
okay,
Statistically,
allow me
studies.
again. Allow me to build it out for you.
Sure.
Immigrants have helped at times in American history, but we are first and foremost a nation founded by settlers. Immigrants come to a country already built. Settlers come to a barren place and build something new.
Right.
This land was barren when people came. In the 1840s gold rush, this was not an easy place to live.
Yeah.
California was not exactly industrialized. There was not immigrants coming west to California. Those were settlers building a new place around, Western values. Finally, I would just ask the question, do you see a moral distinction between a legal immigrant and an illegal immigrant?
Well, the argument is that they're cutting in line. Like the argument is that they're cutting in line in the 20-year process that it would take for someone to cross here legally.
It's not 20, but yeah.
At most it's 20. At most it's 20. Right now there's around like 1.2 million people who are currently waiting that would take
Well,
6 to 7 years for a hearing.
And by the way, no one has a right to come to this country,
Of
just
cour-
to be
wait,
clear.
let me stay
And-
on track of what I was gonna say. Okay, so people who come here usually, almost all the time when they come here, they benefit society. They benefit society. There's studies that have done this.
Not
There's
necessarily.
okay, not necessarily, but overall in general.
But no,
when you look overall
I
in general, you look at the
fundamentally
statistics.
disagree with that.
You can't
I mean,
disagree with a fact.
Hold on.
It's-
Do you think Elon Omar has enriched the United States of America?
I don't know who
Do you
that
think
is.
Rashida Tlaib?
Uh-huh.
I mean, I could go through person
Wait,
by
are
person
these,
by person.
Sorry, I don't know these people. Are these people who have are illegal immigrants that have caused harm?
Yeah, if you don't know, I don't mean to pick on you. It's fine.
Okay,
But I
thanks.
guess the final question is,
Sure.
do you have any concern
that there are too many people coming into this country and we're a nation of strangers, not a nation of neighbors.
If the people who are coming are creating America, making it more growing, like the economy is growing, then what harm is that doing? Especially if the people who are
Because we're more
coming
than
are
an
not.
economy, though, aren't we? We're a culture, we're a language,
Yeah,
we're
of course.
people.
Okay, so let's talk about that front. When they come here, they don't have any kind of. They're not committing as more crimes than the people who are already here. That is a
Again,
statistic
we've already
done.
dispelled that, but
That
do
is not- you can't
in
dispel a
California,
statistic.
Let's
What are
take
you talking
California.
about?
You
can't-
do you think there's anything wrong that a majority of young people in California speak Spanish, not English?
Wait, sorry. Can you say that?
Do you think there's anything wrong or troubling to the fact that a majority of people under the age of 30 here in this state speak Spanish, not English? Is there a problem with that?
Well, yeah, everyone should be able to have a ability to communicate with the rest of the crowd. So I don't know what the big issue of that
See, I think
is.
it's a huge problem when we have a nation where you can't communicate
Sure.
with your fellow
Okay.
neighbor.
Simple solution: teach them how to speak English. What is
Well,
your
yeah,
point?
and our schools don't do that actually. And also, have a better solution.
Yeah.
Don't import a bunch of people that don't speak English.
You mean importing people who actually grow the economy?
Well, but,
who
again,
don't
reject.
What?
I reject your premise. We
That's
are more
not
than,
a premise. That's a study that's been done.
Do
What
you
are
know what a
talking
premise is?
about?
I don't actually care as much about economic growth because
You
we're
don't
one
care
nation
about- you
under.
don't care about
We're one
economic
nation under
growth.
GDP. We're not one nation under GDP. We're a nation under God.
Yeah.
And when we lose social cohesion, and you import a bunch of people that don't share our values, that don't necessarily always assimilate, that's a major and serious problem. And we are a people first and foremost with a creed, and that creed is falling apart. Mass migration has not helped that creed. Yes, they might buy more trinkets. They might help depress wages. Mass migration, of course, can
Right,
help
all
them.
good things, all great
Well, hold
things
on.
for America
They,
that needs.
well, they help major corporations, but you know what they also do? They keep down the wages of working people. If you are a plumber, yes, of course. If you think about it, if you're a plumber, electrician, or a welder, and you have to compete against someone from Nicaragua who's willing to do it for $5 less an hour,
Yeah.
that depresses the wages of the American citizen.
Right. Yeah. So there's been studies that done that also like counteract that. Illegal immigrants.
Well, let's
only
use our reason.
Illegal.
then.
No,
Hold on, let's
no.
use
Let's
our
look
reason.
at studies.
Let's
how
use
about,
our
how about
reason.
statistics?
How about our reason? So we've had mass migration for 20 years. Have wages gone up?
I don't know.
No, they haven't actually. So
okay.
forget your studies. For 10 years
Forget your studies.
we've had 30 million people come into America. Wages have gone down dramatically.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a reason why.
Okay. Okay.
So what I encourage you to do, just because there's a study that confirms, you should use your reason and look actually at self-evident truths. Be like, does that make sense? Can you name
Statistics are self-evident.
Well,
truths.
not always. Statistics are
Not
very
always?
misleading. Yes, like for example, I could say, did you know that 600 people a year die because of seatbelts? Well, that's a misleading statistic because over 100,000 lives are saved by seatbelts. That's an incomplete statistic.
Wait, okay, so where's the so that's a gray area. So where's the gray area where people are talking about where 26% of illegal immigrants who come here commit less crimes than native born?
Okay, we have how many times have you been over this? That's just not correct.
Well,
it's
that
not
is
true.
correct. That is correct.
Every single crime. It doesn't
this
matter about
is a
the
study
rate.
that was done in Texas, the most diverse,
Again.
second most diverse state.
Every crime an illegal commits is one that should never have happened. It is
Okay.
a period.
course,
they
of
should
course.
not be here. So
I
I don't
agree.
care about the rate. The rate is irrelevant. So let me just ask one final
The rate
question.
is relevant.
Someone broke into the country and cut in line. What should happen to them?
Well, they're given. Ideally, there's a system. Ideally, there's a system that's merit-based, where these people then become part of the citizen. Like they become a legal citizen.
Yeah, I mean, we have clarity but not agreement. I say deport them all back to their country of
I don't
origin
think
and
that's
put
not
Americans first.
That's not an appropriate solution. When
well, the
no.
American people voted for it, and
Most
it is appropriate.
People, it isn't appropriate because most of the people that do come here illegally contribute positively to
Again,
society.
they-
Not
they
again,
are-
dude. Statistically,
I have
everything
been
backs
through-
this.
You're not
Everything
listening to
backs
anything
it.
I'm saying, and that's fine. They take jobs from Americans. They depress wages. They steal Social Security numbers. They commit a crime every single day that they're here. They flood our public schools. They flood our social services. They flood our hospitals. They are a burden on the taxpayer. They should go back and make their own country great again and apply and become a legal immigrant if they want to live here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.